Portal 2 is, unsurprisingly, my favorite game of all time. I think literally everything about it is perfect, and the only problems I have with it are small nitpicks. However, this video is not about that. I could totally make a video going full fanboy mode on why Rick is the best thing to ever happen to humanity, but you already read the title, so I'm assuming that you know that I know that I'm going to talk about something else. If you've been a fan of my channel for a long time, like before I've played Rhythm Heaven long time, then you'd already know that I've made some videos about this subject. And if you don't know, that I'm of course talking about the fever dream that is krzyhau's, I hope that's how you pronounce it, krzyhau's Triple Laser series. This is what every low-quality YouTube series should turn into. If I showed you this, and then this, I'm not sure you would believe that these are from the same series of videos. I've wanted to talk about this ever since I made my first backrooms analysis. And screw you! I'm postponing fan videos too, so I can work on this! So to catch you up to speed, in Portal 2 there is a test chamber that goes by the name Triple Laser. This test chamber became a bit of a meme in the community, as almost everyone struggles with it on their first playthrough, due to almost every surface being portable. It is also the first fully clean test chamber, and overall has a very recognizable feel to it. Because of all these traits, this test chamber became a meme, and many different things were made about it. But then, of course, a Portal 2 speedrunner and YouTuber krzyhau would of course release the first video in the Triple Laser saga. And it is in this video that we see one of the things that makes this series so alluring to me as a child. The sheer amount that the source engine is broken, reshaped, and remade in this series. As we go on later on, the shenanigans get a bit less intense in favor for the story, if you can believe that, but the amount that Hammer is broken in this series, it never stops. krzyhau has already had a bit of a rich history of programming when it comes to stuff like that, so I'm not even surprised by the amount of stuff that he pulls off in this series. The best effect in this first video is almost definitely picking up the laser receptor head though, as picking up an immovable entity isn't too easy in the source engine. Another great video is this one, when the player finds himself in the map by the name of Crazy Box, but spies a test chamber down one of the pillars. They shoot a portal down there and we find ourselves in laser versus turret. The player gets the bright idea to explode the wooden boards blocking the door, and to do so he uses a laser to explode a turret right next to a door. However, on the other side of the hallway is of course Triple Laser. A few videos go by, and I'd like to say that one of the most impressive effects that's done in the series is picking up the laser itself. When you look at the behind the scenes video, you see that it's actually relatively simple, but in execution it just looks so surreal to see an immovable line picked up like this like it's nothing. Overall, in Season 1, I'd say that the best effects are being pulled off are the ability to merge two maps together like it's nothing in this video, being able to pick up the portals, which then proceeds to crash the game when he does this, and like I said earlier, moving the laser. There's also the can video, which I used to unironically listen to quite a bit. And then there's the... But then, of course, we get to the finale of Season 1, which is the first truly lore-centric episode in this series. It's still weird to call this lore, but I guess this is what we need to deal with. The player walks into the test chamber, but all the elements are missing, and after wandering around a bit, a panel falls down in front of the player, and this weird defective turret wearing a headband appears in a white void. Although he speaks Japanese, the subtitles on this video are in English. So, to summarize, this turret says that there is something very wrong with Triple Laser, and the player needs to fight it somehow. They are not ready, however, but they cannot disappoint this turret. Remember this turret, by the way, he becomes pretty important later. Also, just for reference, this guy's name is the Oob Bender. Season 2 begins with a bang, with an ad spot for Triple Laser itself and the amount of ways it can break reality. This is going to tell those segments where I just tell you to watch the video for yourselves, as this is a really great drug trip. I mean, I'm gonna say that you should watch this entire series before watching this video, but if you're already this far in, then you don't care enough. Anyways, back to the video. It also claims that Triple Laser can help with the infamous Finale 4 skip. If you don't know, Finale 4 is the final map in the single-player campaign of Portal 2, and the idea of the skip, at least from what I can tell, is to completely skip the entire Wheatley boss fight and just go straight to the cutscene with GLaDOS. At least, that's what I think. I don't really know much about speedrunning. Something worth noting in this video is that this defective turret that reviews the Triple Laser chamber has a very good chance of being the Oob Bender, as they are both defective turrets. The next video we get is a cool little edit, but there's not much to say here. We then get a video showcasing a cube before the map turns into a cube in the next video. And this is also a really good effect. After this video, we get one with a bunch of lasers and moving in a string. What are they doing? Actually, what? Oh my god! The finale for Season 2 is a video where krzyhau turns a bunch of commenters' ideas into triple laser memes. What I would give to just write something down and just see how it's adapted. I reckon that my favorite one in this video, though, is this Baba is You level. I actually tried to recreate this on my own copy of Baba of You is a long time ago, but it didn't work the way I hoped it would, and this is actually a fake triple laser, and it's not canon. So now that we've got all the basic stuff out of the way, it's time to get into Season 3 and Season 4. Just to let you know, we're only 2 pages into the script, and there are 7 pages left, only covering Season 3 and 4. This is where everything begins to come together, and is the main reason why I made this video, because from this point out, things just go insane. Season 3 begins with a video where we see the player in the corner of a darker triple laser, drinking some sort of drink. And we get the flashback to the oob bender appearing in front of the player, before we cut to the player standing in front of a wall in a test chamber with a bunch of nonsensical scribblings on the wall. It's safe to assume that what we're seeing here is what the player in the video where the oob bender appears trying to understand what just happened. We see a number that reads multiverse constant, and as far as I can tell, this number doesn't really mean anything in relation to the Source Engine, Portal 2, or mathematics as a whole. The player then begins positioning themselves in his floor in a very specific way, clearly attempting to pull off a sort of speedrunning trick. They shoot a portal through a very fine corner in the wall, just like a speedrunner would, and after a while, it lands, and we see that it landed back in the version of the chamber where the oob bender first appeared. They jump down, but right before they walk outside, a wall appears, and crushers appear and immediately kill the player. Don't worry, when I finish all these analysis, I will attempt to explain everything that's going on here. You'll just need to wait a bit. After this video, we get shown all the ways that triple laser can be manipulated. The player walks into the chamber before getting lifted up through a hole in the roof, and we get a super cool montage with overly dramatic music. And what I would give for a download of all these different maps, I'd love to see what's going on in this one. Or this one. Maybe not this one, though. A huge door appears in front of the player, and they walk through, and then the video ends. Okay, that's great. The next video on the agenda is the most viewed video on the krzyhau channel, and once you watch it, you can very easily understand why. The player goes down the elevator and walks into a miniature triple laser with a jukebox in the corner, along with a music disc. The player puts the disc in the player and attempts to solve the easy chamber, but for whatever reason, the laser catcher doesn't work. We escape out of the small room and pull down a section of the wall to see that the laser has gone into a huge tube. They use a redirection cube to direct the laser into the tube, and we see how much the player has gotten the laser to go. Positioning all of these must have been a nightmare for the player, but somehow they prevail and actually do it. We find ourselves looking in a big room, and after lasering a hole in the wall, then pulling out the wall, which got me, I will admit, we get a look at a huge room with God knows how many cubes. We see the extent to how much this laser has gotten redirected, before seeing the laser catcher, and the player puts the laser in the catcher, and we see that the torture has finally ended. He walks into the next room, which turns out to be the same test chamber, and the disc gets put in the player, but it plays Hall of the Mountain King. Knowing the reputation of this song, the player just decides to nuke. The next video is a very impressive one. We see the player jump up the elevator shaft, before seeing a miniature version of triple laser in a table in front of them. They pick it up and they realize that it's actually the entire room that we're in right now. It's some sort of recursion element. And so when they shake it, the whole room gets shaken around. Eventually, curiosity gets the best of the player, and the test chamber gets violently shaken around as the extreme, before a wall appears to fall off, and a slot appears. This slot is perfectly triple laser sized, so the player solves, in quotations, the chamber, and goes into where the nook leads, to which the video then ends, and we don't see what's on the other side. After that video, we got a very out of left hand move. So, just for context, there is a video game called Fez, where the player is a little character known as Gomez. Gomez gets a hat that gives him access to the third dimension, so the game then turns into a puzzle platformer, and a great one at that. If not confusing, it's very confusing. It's a very charming game with a lot of mysteries. Like, many people have said, as a joke though, that Fez is their favorite game of all time and they haven't even played it. It's a much better game to learn about than to play. I'm just gonna leave it there. krzyhau is a big fan of Fez, so he decided to actually edit a level in Fez to turn it into triple laser, and it works surprisingly well. After this video released, krzyhau actually released a Fez fan game of his own, known as Fez Towel. It's very short, but it does a very good job at putting Fez into the Portal universe, and it's a fun little thing to play. We then get a video that's a sequel to the one that turns everyone's comment into triple laser variations. Not much here to comment on, aside from the...
It's a pile of balls.
However, the next video is basically everything we've been doing so far has been leading up to. We go back to the point of view of the player that has met the oob vendor, and we see them go behind an elevator instead of going into the test, pushing down a paddle and leading into a little den the player has made, featuring the same wall from the other test chamber ripped out. The player zooms in on a book and then adjusts one of the numbers in the multiverse constant, turning Triple Laser into a turret dance party. When the turrets all notice the player, however, the player retaliates by putting a portal into another, which previously would have crashed the game, but this time it makes a black hole, or white hole, that sucks everything in the room into it. He shoots another portal at the last moment, bringing the portals back to normal. The player goes into the same position from the other video and shoots a portal right into the crevice, which of course leads him to the Oob Bender chamber room. Right as the Crushers are about to crush the player, however, the entire world morphs around the player with a really cool data moshing effect. We see all the versions of Triple Laser we've ever seen, and we see a really shiny Triple Laser with some sort of orb in the middle. When they touch the orb, the entire chamber self-destructs, and the player gets stuck in a white void. Sure. And that is the end of Season 3. However, Season 4 definitely keeps up the same pace as Season 3, and then some. The first video in Season 4 is undeniably the most impressive video in this whole series. I say this because it is literally a fully animated short film. Anyways, it starts off with text saying 3 years ago, and we see the video where player portals between two maps and ends up in Triple Laser. We get a direct continuation, showing this player's stress at this situation. So of course they portal back to Laser versus Turret, but when he goes back, the turrets appear to be warning the player about something. The screen cuts to black, and we see the entire test chamber at an angle, with the player using a turret to ram the door open, trying to get out. He shoots a portal out the door and jumps through, finding himself in a white void. Right as he thinks he's safe, however, the test chamber comes hurtling towards him, and the player presumably dies. We get a view of some dead turrets and a bunch of environmental shots, and we see a list of players, and the name krzyhau is circled, before seeing the Oob Bender himself slam the door open, and we get a view of the test chamber from the outside, revealing that it's been sitting and stagnant in a void. The Oob Bender walks around a little bit, and goes up to a computer terminal and turns it on. He types in a bunch of jargon into the console, and we get a view of many different Earths, obviously looking at the multiverse. Now, I have failed to mention the multiverse too much, but in general, it appears that all the different triple lasers we see are different versions across the multiverse. However, after focusing in on a certain version of the multiverse, we see a bunch of triple lasers, and the Oob Bender walks towards some sort of pair of devices. He picks them up and spawns two portals in front of him. He merges them together, which would have crashed the game like it did in the other video, but in this video, it creates a huge glitchy mess, and he opens them up and reveals a blinding void full of triple laser chambers. He jumps through, and after a really cool musical sequence, lands in the test chamber. We cut to the POV of the player, and then, of course, the wall falls down, revealing the Oob Bender behind it. So, obviously, this is how he got to that spot in the chamber. So I will discuss everything that we just witnessed very soon, but we still have a few videos left to cover. After this video, we got a short video of an animation where a test subject takes a laser out of the receptacle somehow, and while it's playing with the dial, it accidentally breaks it, and we get a screen showing the results of some sort of test. We zoom out, revealing that there are a bunch of tests going on at once, and judging by what is said on the screen and in the description, it's safe to say there is someone, or some people, who have gotten all of this to happen. The next move krzyhau had up his sleeve was definitely a surprising one, and that was to make a game jam based off Triple Laser. The games shown off in this video are very cool, and I remember playing Triple Laser RPG by Alice and Ghost and really enjoying it. But anyways, the video does start and end pretty strange, however. It starts with text saying that there has been a cataclysmic event in Test Chamber 20, and the only one person to survive this event is apparently in hyperspace, looking for a way to escape. The video ends in an even stranger way, with a huge gramophone appearing out of nowhere and attacking the player. I feel like I'm thinking with Time Machine all over again. So before we go into the huge discussion of the plot, we still have a few loose ends that we need to tie up before we can make a full timeline. Krzyhau has released some external triple laser materials that, although not in any playlist, are still definitely important information to understand what's going on. First of all, there is a 5th triple laser playlist solely made for one video, which was meant to be the first episode of Season 2, but for whatever reason Krzyhau scrapped it. We see that triple laser has been converted into a sphere with some masterful hammer skills before one of the cubes clipped out of the ground, and we see that where it lands in the void is a huge pile of excess cubes that appears to have clipped out too. There are also 2 videos that are based off the Portal 64 game made by a user named MW Penny, which its main goal is to get Portal to run on a Nintendo 64. This game is actually so good that it had to be taken down by Valve, which is seriously impressive considering it's Portal on a Nintendo 64. The first of these 2 videos is a simple title screen for a game named Super Triple Laser Gaming 64. Where a laser receptacle appears along with the title, and these really funny graphics of the oob bender and player show up. Neat. The second video is a ROM hack of Portal 64, which actually converts Triple Laser into an N64 game. It's actually up for download, and when I played it, it's really cool playing a version of Triple Laser so radically different from any other. There's also 3 Lasers, which is a simple visualizer of audio that uses the Triple Laser's outline as a base. But undeniably, the most important external part of the Triple Laser saga is that of the OST for the series. All of the songs here are pretty good, and the descriptions give off some neat context to the different scenes. For example, the main character's name we follow is just Protagonist, and the whole sequence at the end of Season 3 finale is known as the Multiversal Final Integrity Sequence. However, you might have noticed that the same gramophone from earlier is in this video, and it talks to us a few times too, strange enough. The first time it talks is in song 3, where it calls for help, and says that, quote-unquote, he turned me into a gramophone. The next one is in Ding Ding Ding, which is an incredible sound, is the song where Triple Laser was meant to get a motif, where it says it still needs help. The last moment it speaks is at the end of the video, where it says that it will escape somehow, and that it refuses to believe it's just in a YouTube series, in an incredible fourth wall break. It then glitches out a lot. However, there has been one key element in this video that I have been missing. The last song shown in this video is an unused one called The Cave Johnson Council, and the description for it says that it was meant to be used in a video where, quote-unquote, one of the protagonists meet the council to resolve a great conflict. So that is everything related to the Triple Laser Saga by krzyhau. With all this said and done, I think that we now need to try and figure out what the hell is going on here. But calmly. So, first of all, it appears that this whole world we see here is some sort of garbage dump for unused Portal 2 assets that rest between multiverses. And for whatever reason, the easiest way to access this place is to load into your copy of the Triple Laser map. I believe that this Johnson Council we hear about is the group of people that sort of manages this wasteland. Maybe not manages, but definitely supervises it in some way. The fact that its name is based off of solely one person, yet is still considered a conglomerate, shows there are most likely multiple different Cave Johnson in the council, who most likely all originate from different multiverses that are trying to do something. They are very clearly running a series of tests by monitoring different Triple Laser versions in the different multiverses, but we don't have any motive or reason as to why they're doing all this. This big void that the council resides in has appeared multiple times, most prominently in the spherical Triple Laser video, twice in the Oob Bender video, and at the end of the Season 3 finale. Wait, how does the Oob Bender fit all into all of this? Well, first of all, Oob, or OOB, at least in Portal 2 speedrunning, stands for out of bounds, and along with the word bender, this shows that this fella is most likely some being that knows damn near everything about this Triple Laser void, and as I'm gonna call it. He appears to be very interested in studying the specific player krzyhau, and believes that he can be the one to stop Triple Laser. But I don't necessarily know what stop means. He claims that there's something wrong with the test chamber, so obviously it's glitching out in some way, but I don't know how you stop a test chamber. Perhaps the Bender is a rogue Johnson Council employee who went against their goals. It definitely appears that way, if that's the case, and since we get a view of the Bender as a good guy, then does that mean the Johnson Council is the antagonist of the series? In the video where he first appears, he also says that something is very wrong with the test chamber, and the description for the Johnson Council in songs says a protagonist resolves a great conflict with the Johnson Council. So maybe the test chamber is just like this, and the Bender and the Council are two different beings who both share the same goal, stopping Triple Laser from taking over the world, I suppose? Okay, screw it. I am going to lay down But I believe the timeline for the series is right now, and we will see how all these theories age in the long run. I'll make a lot of assumptions to make this coherent, and skip over a lot of the more memey videos, so it's not just funny can. So, in a different multiverse than the one we're used to, Cave Johnson gains access to the multiverse somehow. Cave ventures through the multiverse and eventually meets up with a bunch of other Cave Johnsons who call themselves the Johnson Council. They tell our Cave that the triple laser test chamber is misbehaving in some way, and that they need to work together to stop it. All these multiverse Johnsons have gained a huge amount of knowledge about the world they live in, and know that the world of Portal 2 is a simulation in the source engine, and therefore can be manipulated in any way as long as you try hard enough. Our Cave joins the council because they claim that he can help fix Triple Laser. Together, they build a big chunk of simulations that show all the possible Triple Laser variants in the multiverse to show everything that they must consider to fix the test chamber. On the other hand of the spectrum, we have the Oob Bender. I think that the Oob Bender originates from a multiverse where, instead of Cave accessing the multiverse, a random defective tyrant accesses it himself somehow, and he also learns about the universe he lives in, just like the Johnson Council. Eventually, he discovers... What? He discovers... What was I on writing this script? Eventually, he learns that a triple laser is the most unstable test for one reason or another, and therefore is the easiest way to travel between multiverses. However, since triple laser is such a fragile place, if one player misuses the puzzle in one way or another, they can very easily destroy this whole void, or maybe even the entire world of Portal 2. Because of this, he searches the player place to see if anyone can help fix triple laser in a very careful way, and discovers a player named krzyhau, a master Portal 2 speedrunner. The Oob Bender ultimately decides that krzyhau is a good enough player and tries to recruit him. He begins to do immense research about the multiverse and how to travel between them, and because of this, he creates a device that lets him create easy portals between multiverses, and manages to find krzyhau face to face. He tells him that krzyhau will be of great use, and just tells him to wait, before disappearing, leaving krzyhau in the dust. krzyhau becomes obsessed with who the Oob Bender is, and he begins making up his own theories about the multiverse, and after a while, he learns about the multiverse constant, which denotes which version of Triple Laser will be accessed. Using speedrun techniques, he manages to portal back to the version of Triple Laser where he first met the Oob Bender. However, due to the fact that portals weren't meant to travel through different multiverses, the entire Triple Laser void begins to collapse in front of everyone's eyes, and krzyhau gets left behind in a truly empty void. Now, from this point onward, I tried a little hard, but this guy's a little strange. So, krzyhau, the real-life YouTuber himself, gets mad that this series he's making has gotten derailed by this in-universe insert of him. And so, in an incredible act of self-promotion, krzyhau turns the fictional krzyhau into a gramophone as a fun visual for a soundtrack for the series he made up one day. However, krzyhau, the character, has now learned that not only is the multiverse real, not only is Portal 2 a fictional simulation in the source engine, but he himself is part of a fake series on YouTube that isn't real. He gets mad because of this, and decides that one way or another, he will escape. Can you play the dramatic boom sound effect? Did that make any sense? I hope it did. I'm sorry for not making fan videos video 2, but I needed a little break, and I've also wanted to talk about this series for a long time, so I'm really glad that I managed to get this out. Also, since I have a track record of creators I cover commenting on my videos, krzyhau, if you're watching this, can you please tell me if my timeline is made as accurate? Also, I love your work. I'm gonna go now. Bye-bye.